It's time for another Dice Tower review with John Richard.
Howdy gamers, greetings from Indianapolis, Indiana, the gaming capital of the world. It's time for another board game review with me, Indiana John. Today we're going to be taking a look at a piece of new hotness from Gen Con 2014, and that is Five Tribes from Bruno Cathala and Days of Wonder Games. Now, Days of Wonder Games has been one of my favorite board game companies for a long time. As a matter of fact, when I first got into hobby board gaming, Ticket to Ride and Shadows over Camelot were two of the first games that I ever bought. And I've always really enjoyed the high production quality that this game company has. They give a lot of great attention to detail in their games, great artwork, cool components, and they're always very accessible games for both gamers and non-gamers alike. So I was very excited to get a hold of this. Now, the full title of this game is Five Tribes, the Jinns of Nakala. And I actually had to look this up, but apparently Nakala is the Arabic word for Mancala, which you may know is kind of an ancient game about taking stones and moving them around a track and putting them into different wells and things like that. And that's essentially what you're trying to do in this game. It's not so much a worker placement game as it is a worker manipulation game, where you're taking workers that are already on the board and moving them around so that you can perform particular actions, so that you can gain points, which will win you the game. So let's take a closer look at Five Tribes, the Jinns of Nakala, and see if we can answer together the number one question, which is it any fun? The board for Five Tribes consists of a 6x5 grid of 30 tiles, which you randomly set up at the beginning of each game. Then put the 90 meeples that come with the game in the black bag, give them a shake, and pull out 3 random meeples to put on each tile. Let's use the magic of video to speed this up a bit. Once the board is set up, place the bid order and turn order boards next to the main board, and randomly place the player markers on the bid order board. I find it's handy to toss them into the bag and randomize them that way, but whatever works for you should be fine. Also, shuffle the deck of market cards, draw the top 9 cards, and lay them out in a row. This is the resource market. This deck contains 9 different resource types, as well as slave cards that can be used to modify or boost actions in the game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Shuffle the deck of Jinn cards, or Genie cards, and set out 3 cards face up. This is the initial Jinn market, if you will. Each player will start with 8 wooden camel tokens and 50 gold coins. It should be noted that gold coins are the victory points in this game, as well as the currency for making bids for turn order, so wise choices will need to be made so that you leverage the most points from each of your turns. Each round will begin with a bid for turn order. Starting with the first player, each player will select a spot on the turn order track and pay the number of gold coins shown on that space to the bank. If more than one player chooses the 0 space, it will cause the previous players who chose 0 to be pushed back. After everyone has made their bid, each player will take their turn. On your turn, you start by moving the turn marker to the first free space on the bid track, indicating that you're taking your turn. Now it's time for the Mancala, or Nakala, mechanic. You will select one of the tiles and pick up all of the meeples on the tile. Then, traveling along the board, you'll drop 1 meeple into each adjacent tile that you move to. Movement must be orthogonal, not diagonal, and this is really key, you must end your movement by dropping your last meeple onto a tile that already has a meeple of the same color. Then, you'll remove all of the meeples of that color from that last tile. If removing these meeples from the last tile during your turn causes the tile to be empty, you can claim control of the tile by placing one of your camel meeples on it. At the end of the game, you'll get the point value of the tile in gold coins. After checking for tile control, then you're going to perform the action that's associated with the particular color or tribe of meeple that you've pulled off the board. And there's 5 different colors and, well, 5 tribes, so let's go over them one at a time. The first are the yellow meeples, or viziers. These are going to be worth 1 point each at the end of the game. You'll keep them in front of you. Plus, you're also going to get 10 points for every player who has fewer viziers than you at the end of the game. So for example, let's say you have 5 Viziers at the end of the game, and your opponents have 3, 2, and 1. Well, you're going to get 5 points for these meeples, plus you're going to get an additional 30 points because you have more Viziers than 3 other players, for a total of 35 points. The white meeples are the elders. You're going to pull these off the board and put them in front of you. They're worth 2 points each at the end of the game, plus they're another form of currency in this game to be able to purchase djinns and to activate djinn abilities. We'll talk about the djinns in just a second. The blue meeples are the builders. When you score builders, you look for the number of tiles with blue scoring values that are surrounding your tile, in this case both orthogonally and diagonally. And you multiply that number by the number of blue meeples that you remove from the board. You can also discard slave cards to count as additional blue meeples for this action. The green meeples are the merchants. For every green meeple that you take from the board on your turn, you can take that many green resource cards from the end of the face-up row. These merchant cards are another great way to get points during the game because you can turn in sets of resource cards that are all different for points. The player aid card indicates the payout per number of cards. You can do this anytime during the game on your turn if you need gold coins, but if you can save up cards until the end of the game, that might yield you the most points. Finally, the red meeples are the assassins. When you remove your assassins from the board, you may then kill 1 meeple on the board. The number of red meeples you remove from the board determines how many tiles away you can choose your victim. So if you removed 3 red meeples, you could kill any meeple up to 3 tiles away. Alternatively, you can choose to kill one of your opponent's yellow or white meeples. You can discard slave cards to count as additional red meeples for this action, which will increase your range of attack on the board. After you perform the action that's associated with the tribe or meeple color that you pulled off the board, then you're going to perform the tile action, which is located on the lower left of the tile. There are 5 different tile actions, 2 of them are mandatory and 3 of them are optional. If a tile has a palm tree symbol, place a wooden palm tree token on the tile. At the end of the game, whoever controls that tile will get an additional 3 points per palm tree. Similarly, if a tile has a palace symbol, place a wooden palace token on the tile. At the end of the game, whoever controls that tile will get an additional 5 points per palace. There are 2 tile actions that involve getting cards from the market. For the small market action, you have the option of paying 3 coins and then taking 1 of the first 3 cards from the resource row. With the large market action, you can pay 6 gold coins and take any 2 of the first 6 cards in the resource card row. The last tile action is the Sacred Places action. By discarding 2 white meeples or a white meeple plus a slave card, you can purchase one of the face-up djinn cards on the table. There are 22 unique djinns in the game, and they all have pretty powerful rule-breaking abilities. For example, if you take the djinn Jafar, each of your Vizier meeples at the end of the game will count for 3 points instead of 1. Any of you who have seen the Disney movie Aladdin should get this reference. After all the players have taken their turns, then you're going to replenish the djinn market and the resource card row, and then you'll begin again with another bidding round. The game will continue in this fashion until one of 2 end conditions happens. Either a player places their last camel token onto a tile, or there are no more legal moves left on the board. And once that happens, then the game is over, and then you will perform final scoring using this very handy and colorful scoring sheet. Points for yellow meeples, points for white meeples, points for djinn cards, the point value for tiles where you have camels, 3 points for every palm tree on a tile where you have a camel, 5 points for every palace on a tile where you have a camel, and points for any sets of all different resource cards that you turn in at the end of the game. The player with the most points, or gold coins, at the end of the game will be crowned the Great Sultan of Nakala. So that is 5 tribes. What do I think of this game? I think it is fantastic, and it was definitely the best purchase that I made at Gen Con this year. I think that Bruno Cathala has done a great job of putting a great strategic game into a very short playtime. Let me give you a few specific examples of things that I like about this game. One, I think that it's a good amount of depth but is not overly long. I think that that's a perfect niche for a game, is something that's going to give you a good thinky experience, but isn't going to drag on for 2 to 3 hours. On the box, I think it says that this game is 40 to 80 minutes, and I think that's pretty accurate. I think that an hour to an hour and a half, even with rules explanation, is what you're going to be looking at. So I think it's really great. I think it's great that it has multiple paths to victory. There's a lot of different ways to get points in the game, and so you could try to go for tile control, you can go for resource card collection, you can try to leverage the genies or the djinns to get points from that and maybe steal points from other players. The whole thing with the viziers is very interesting with all the points that you can get for having more than your opponents. So there's lots of different ways that you can win. I've actually seen in the games that I've played, people win with very different strategies, so that's a lot of fun too. I think that it also is has a lot of replayability built into the game because of the fact that the tile layout is different every single time. So you know, every time you lay out those 30 tiles, it's going to be different. So that's going to be different for the distribution of your points, especially those blue points. But then also you're going to be putting the meeples down randomly too. So that's going to be completely different every single time. You add into that the fact that there are 22 different djinn cards, of which you're probably only going to see maybe half of those if you're lucky in the game. You know, you can play this thing over and over again, it'll be a different experience every time. Now, what do I not like about it? Well, I think that there is some possibility for some analysis paralysis. So if you have players that are prone to that, once you get into the mid-game and there are fewer options for how you're going to leverage your points, you might find people taking a lot longer time to make their decision for turn order bid because they're trying to figure out, you know, if I spend 8 coins, is that going to be too much because I think I might only be able to get 5 points on this turn. You start doing a lot of math in your head. So if you have players that are prone to that, I think that could be an issue, although I think I've found that it's not been too much of an issue, and you've kind of pushed people along. It's usually not too bad of a problem. But I think it's very accessible for both non-gamers and gamers. This definitely leans more towards being a gamer's game. But I think that new players who are not familiar with games like this could very easily learn the game. Days of Wonder did a great job of putting a reference card in the game, like they have in so many of their games, that explains almost everything. It's double-sided. One side has all of the genie abilities on it, which is fantastic. So I think it's a very easy game to teach as well. So I think this is an absolute winner from Days of Wonder and from Bruno Cathala. I think that this is going to be, I think, one of the games of the year. I'm hoping that it has gained some momentum. And if you get a chance to check this one out, I think it would be a great addition to your collection. So that is 5 Tribes, the Djinns of Nakala.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.